Okay, so what if I told you that there's a single idea, a 400-year-old secret that's basically the key to understanding, well, our entire modern world? We're about to dig into how this one powerful thought literally shaped empires, economies, and the very map of global power we see today.
And it all starts right here, with this one quote. It's from Sir Walter Raleigh, a guy who saw the future of global power with, just stunning clarity. And look, he wasn't just writing some catchy motto here. No, he was literally drafting the blueprint, the playbook for empire that would be followed almost to the letter for the next 400 years.
So the big question is, how did this one phrase, this vision from 4 centuries ago, actually build the world that you and I live in right now? And maybe even more important, why does this old secret matter more today than it ever has before? Well, let's dive in and find out.
Now you might think the story of this world-changing idea starts in some stuffy royal court with a perfectly laid out plan. But it doesn't. It actually begins out on the violent, stormy seas with a single, shocking battle. A battle that proved a radical new theory about power wasn't just an idea anymore. It was terrifyingly real.
You see, for centuries, the rules of war were pretty simple. The biggest army wins. That's it. But in 1588, the defeat of the so-called invincible Spanish Armada just completely flipped that script. It was the first brutal proof of concept that, hey, maybe you don't need to conquer vast amounts of land to rule the world. Maybe you just need to control the seas. So who was the architect of this revolutionary idea? Well, he wasn't some famous general or a decorated admiral. He was a courtier, an explorer, a strategist, a guy named Sir Walter Raleigh. And he got it. He understood that the great game between nations wasn't just being played on battlefields anymore. The real game was being played out on the open ocean. And this was his big aha moment, his core insight. See, while the Spanish Empire was busy digging for gold in the Americas, Raleigh realized something brilliant. The real power wasn't in owning the gold mine. It was in controlling the highway, the sea lanes, that carried all that gold back to Europe. Now, his first attempt at a colony, the famous lost colony at Roanoke, that was a total disaster. But he learned. He used Ireland as a kind of brutal laboratory to perfect the methods of colonial control that England was about to unleash on the rest of the world.
Okay, but a vision, no matter how brilliant, is pretty useless without a system to make it happen. And this is where the British genius for empire really kicked in. They took Raleigh's idea and they didn't just adopt it, they forged it into a repeatable, 4-part formula for absolute global domination.
So, step 1 of the formula? Weaponize your geography. Think about it. As an island, Britain's very survival depended on controlling the water around it. A powerful navy wasn't some optional extra, a tool for conquest. No, for them, it was their shield. It was everything.
Second, they created a brutally effective incentive system. Here's how it worked. If you captured an enemy ship, everybody on your crew got a cut of the prize money, from the captain right down to the cabin boy. So victory meant you got rich, you became a hero. But failure? Oh, failure meant public disgrace and, often, death. Just ask Admiral John Byng. He was literally executed by firing squad for not fighting hard enough. This created a culture of just absolute ferocity at sea.
All right, step 3 was to build a global network of strategic naval bases. We're talking about places like Gibraltar, which basically controls the entrance to the Mediterranean, or Singapore, the gateway to all of Asia. And you have to understand, these weren't just random dots on a map. They were the logistical backbone of the entire empire. Think of them like a global chain of gas stations and repair shops for the Royal Navy, giving them a reach that no one else could even dream of.
And then we get to the final piece of the puzzle, the most audacious part of the whole formula. They made dominance their official policy. They called it the 2-power standard, and the math was as simple as it was brutal. The Royal Navy had to be bigger and stronger than the next 2 largest navies in the world, combined. The goal here wasn't equality. It was to be so powerful that you were utterly, completely unchallengeable.
Now, this 4-part formula for power wasn't just wildly successful. It created something else. A terrifying and eerily predictable pattern in history. It's a pattern that serves as a warning, one that echoes loud and clear right up to the present day.
You've probably heard the saying from philosopher George Santayana, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Well, when you look at the history of naval power, that warning stops being a whisper and becomes a deafening scream. A scream that, for some reason, rising powers throughout history have consistently and tragically chosen to ignore.
And the pattern is it's brutal and it's unbroken. Just look at this sequence of falls. Every single great power that rose up and dared to challenge the dominant sea power of its day was ultimately broken by the effort. Spain, bankrupted by endless naval wars. Napoleonic France, economically shattered after the Battle of Trafalgar. Imperial Germany ruined itself not once but twice in a naval arms race, leading directly to 2 world wars. And more recently, the Soviet Union? It collapsed, partly crushed under the immense financial weight of trying to compete with the US Navy.
And all of that, it brings us to right now, today. Because that exact same historical pattern is playing out again, almost word for word, but this time in the Pacific. You have China, which has now built the world's largest navy, at least in terms of the sheer number of ships, and then you have the United States, which still holds the edge in superior technology. The stage is absolutely set for the next chapter in this 400-year-old story. And right at the heart of this modern rivalry, this new great game, lies a single strategic choke point. A narrow strip of land connecting 2 massive continents that Sir Walter Raleigh himself, if he were alive today, would immediately recognize as the ultimate prize.
Look, our entire global economy today is built on the sea. I mean everything. The phone in your pocket, the coffee you drank this morning, the clothes you're wearing, a staggering 90% of all global trade by volume travels by ship.
And when you look at all that trade in the Western Hemisphere, the Panama Canal is the single most vital artery. It's this fragile, yet absolutely indispensable choke point. More than 14,000 vessels carrying the wealth of nations have to squeeze through this narrow channel every single year.
And this is precisely why control over this one little strip of water is such a massive strategic prize in the 21st century rivalry. This isn't just about economics. It's about having your hand on the faucet, the power to turn the tap of global trade on or off. It is Sir Walter Raleigh's 400-year-old vision made real, written in concrete and steel.
So there you have it. Raleigh's 400-year-old secret is still shaping our destiny, right now, as this great power rivalry unfolds. History has shown us the playbook. It's laid it out for us time and time again. The only question left is, are we going to be awake enough to see it coming this time?